can a tiny island with zero natural resources become one of the most powerful nations on Earth? That is exactly what Singapore did, and the world is still trying to figure out how. Imagine a country smaller than the city of Los Angeles, with no oil, no gas, no farmland, and no rivers. A country that was literally kicked out of its parent nation in 1965 and left to survive on its own. Most experts gave it no chance. But Singapore did not just survive, it thrived in a way that shocked the entire planet. Today, it has one of the highest GDP per capita figures on Earth, beating countries like the United States, Germany, and Japan. Its airport has won the title of best airport in the world for years in a row. Its public transport is so reliable that a delayed train makes headline news. Its hospitals rank among the top in Asia. Its streets are so clean that locals joke you could eat off the pavement. And its government runs with a level of discipline that most countries can only dream of. But is Singapore truly the most efficient country on Earth? Or is there a darker side to all that glittering order? Let us break it down, point by point, and find out what makes this little red dot so incredibly special. Point 1. From third world to first world in one generation. Here is something that will blow your mind. In 1965, Singapore had a GDP per capita of around $500. Today, that number sits at over $80,000. That is a jump of more than 150 times in just about 60 years. No other country in modern history has pulled off a transformation at that speed. Not South Korea, not China, not the Gulf states. Singapore went from a poor, disease-ridden, post-colonial island with massive unemployment and racial tensions to a gleaming financial hub, all within a single human lifetime. The man behind much of this miracle was Kuan, Singapore's founding prime minister. He had a ruthless focus on what worked and zero patience for what did not. He attracted foreign investment, cleaned up corruption, built world-class infrastructure, and created a system of government that prioritized results over politics. Critics called him authoritarian. Supporters called him visionary. But whatever you call him, the results speak for themselves. The Singapore miracle is not just an economic story. It is a story of national will, hard decisions, and a belief that a small country can punch far above its weight if it is disciplined enough to try. Point 2. The airport that redefined what an airport could be. If you want to understand Singapore's obsession with excellence, just spend a few hours in Changi Airport. This is not just an airport, it is an experience. Changi has a butterfly garden inside the terminal. It has a rooftop swimming pool. It has a movie theater where you can watch films for free between flights. It has a waterfall that drops 40 meters through a glass dome surrounded by thousands of tropical plants. It has been voted the world's best airport so many times that the awards have almost become routine. But the real magic is not in the attractions. It is in the efficiency. Flights are rarely delayed because of ground operations. Baggage arrives faster than almost anywhere else in the world. Immigration queues move with almost military speed. The airport handles over 60 million passengers a year and does it with a smoothness that leaves travelers genuinely stunned. Every process has been designed, tested, refined, and redesigned again. Nothing is left to chance. The mindset that built Changi Airport is the same mindset that runs Singapore as a whole. If something can be done better, you do it better. You do not accept mediocrity just because everyone else does. You aim higher, and then you build systems to make sure the aim is always met. Point 3. A public transport system that actually works. In most cities around the world, public transport is something people put up with. In Singapore, it is something people genuinely rely on and trust. The Mass Rapid Transit System, known as the MRT, connects almost every corner of the island. Trains run every 2 to 3 minutes during peak hours. The buses follow tight schedules that are accurate to within minutes. The whole system is so integrated that you can travel from one end of the island to the other with a single stored value card, switching between trains, buses, and even taxis using the same payment method. What is even more impressive is the reaction when things go wrong. A significant MRT breakdown becomes front-page news and triggers immediate public inquiries, compensation schemes, and engineering reviews. The standard expected of the system is so high that even small failures become national conversations. Compare that to cities like London, New York, or Mumbai, where daily delays are accepted as simply part of life. Singapore refused to accept that standard. It decided that world-class public transport was not a luxury. It was a basic requirement for a functioning modern economy. And it built exactly that, and then kept improving it decade after decade. Point 4. Healthcare that balances quality and affordability. Singapore's healthcare system is consistently ranked among the best in Asia and the world. It combines public funding, individual responsibility, and private competition in a way that keeps costs manageable while maintaining extremely high quality. Every working Singaporean contributes to a national savings scheme called the Central Provident Fund, which covers healthcare costs, housing, and retirement. This means most people have a financial cushion ready when medical needs arise. The hospitals are clean, well-staffed, and equipped with modern technology. But what makes the system truly remarkable is how it balances access and accountability. You pay something for your care, which discourages unnecessary use of medical services. But the government heavily subsidizes costs for those who cannot afford them, so no one is left without treatment. Life expectancy in Singapore sits at around 84 years, which is among the highest in the world. Infant mortality is near zero. Disease rates for preventable conditions are low because public health campaigns are taken seriously and followed widely. It is a system that trusts people to take some responsibility for their own health while making sure the safety net is strong enough to catch those who need it most. Point 5. Education that produces world-class results. Singaporean students consistently top global education rankings. In the Program for International Student Assessment, known as PISA, Singapore regularly comes first or second in mathematics, science, and reading. This is not an accident. It is the result of a deep cultural respect for education, combined with a government system that takes teacher quality extremely seriously. Teachers in Singapore are recruited from the top 1/3 of university graduates. They are paid competitively, trained rigorously, and given ongoing professional development throughout their careers. The curriculum is demanding, but it is also constantly being reviewed and updated. When research showed that memorization without understanding was holding students back, the system adapted. When studies found that creativity and critical thinking needed more space in classrooms, the curriculum shifted to make room. The pressure on students is real, and the culture of academic achievement can be intense. But the outcomes are undeniable. Singaporean graduates enter the workforce with skills that make them competitive on a global stage. And that human capital, that collective brainpower, is arguably Singapore's greatest natural resource in a country that has no others. Point 6. A government that actually delivers. It sounds almost too simple to say, but one of Singapore's greatest strengths is that its government works. Policies are designed carefully, implemented efficiently, and reviewed honestly. Civil servants are paid competitive salaries to attract the best talent and reduce the temptation of corruption. Ministers are held to high standards of performance, and those who underperform are removed. Corruption is treated as a serious national threat, not a minor inconvenience. The Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, or CPIB, operates with genuine independence and prosecutes cases regardless of rank or status. In a region where corruption has been a major drag on development in many countries, Singapore stands out as a place where the rule of law is real and consistent. This is not to say Singapore's government is perfect. It operates with strong controls on political opposition and freedom of speech. Critics argue the trade-off between efficiency and democratic freedoms is too steep a price. That is a legitimate debate. But in terms of delivering infrastructure, services, economic stability, and governance that functions as promised, Singapore has repeatedly demonstrated a level of competence that puts most governments in the world to shame. Point 7. Housing that works for almost everyone. Over 80% of Singaporeans live in public housing built by a government body called the Housing Development Board, or HDB. Now, when most people hear public housing, they picture gray tower blocks, crime, and decay. But HDB flats in Singapore are nothing like that. They are clean, well-maintained, connected to public transport, surrounded by parks and amenities, and located in diverse, mixed communities. The government deliberately mixes different racial and income groups across housing estates to prevent the formation of ghettos or ethnic enclaves. It is a social engineering decision that was controversial, but has largely produced stable, cohesive communities. Flats are also subsidized, meaning most Singaporeans can afford to buy their own home with savings from their Central Provident Fund accounts. Home ownership rates are extremely high, which gives people a sense of stability and investment in their community. The housing system is not without its pressures. Rising prices in recent years have made it harder for younger generations to buy their first home. But compared to housing crises in cities like London, Sydney, or New York, Singapore's approach to making sure most of its citizens have a decent, affordable place to live stands as one of its most impressive achievements. Point 8. Water security from nothing. Here's a problem that would terrify most governments. Your country has no natural freshwater sources. Your only neighbor, who supplies most of your water through a treaty, is sometimes hostile. What do you do? Singapore answered that question with engineering, innovation, and sheer determination. The country developed what it calls the 4 national tap strategy. First, local water catchment. Second, imported water from Malaysia. Third, new water, which is highly purified recycled water wastewater. And fourth, desalinated water from the sea. The new water program in particular attracted global attention because it turned sewage into drinking water so pure it exceeds World Health Organization standards. The idea was initially met with public resistance. Nobody wanted to drink recycled water, even if it was scientifically proven safe. But the government ran a careful, patient public education campaign. Today, new water supplies around 40% of Singapore's water needs, and the technology has been exported to countries around the world. Water security in a resource-scarce island nation was not something Singapore inherited. It was something Singapore built, from scratch, through technology, planning, and a refusal to accept vulnerability. Point 9. Safety and social order in one of Asia's most diverse cities, along with a huge expatriate population from across the globe. Managing that diversity without social tension is itself a major achievement. The government takes racial and religious harmony seriously as a matter of national survival, not just nice-sounding policy. Laws against racial hate speech are strict. Public holidays celebrate every major religion. Schools teach children from different backgrounds to study together. The military conscripts young men from all races equally, creating shared national identity through shared experience. The result is a city that feels genuinely safe by almost any global standard. Crime rates are among the lowest in the world. Walking alone at night in Singapore is something most residents do without a second thought. Violent crime is rare. Petty theft is rare. Street harassment is rare. This is partly cultural, partly the result of strict law enforcement, and partly the result of economic policies that have kept extreme poverty and hopelessness largely at bay. Singapore is not a perfect society. Inequality exists and social pressures are real. But the sense of physical safety and communal respect that most Singaporeans experience daily is something that many people in other cities around the world can only wish for. Point 10. The price of perfection and what Singapore sacrifices. No honest conversation about Singapore's efficiency can avoid the question of what it costs. The same government that built the airport, the transport system, the hospitals, and the housing also controls the media, limits political opposition, and prosecutes critics with tools like defamation laws that many democratic nations would consider excessive. Freedom of speech rankings consistently place Singapore low on global indexes. Journalists operate carefully. Opposition politicians face significant structural disadvantages. The government justifies these controls as necessary for stability in a small, diverse, and vulnerable nation. And many Singaporeans, when asked, say they accept this trade-off. Economic security, physical safety, quality public services, in exchange for tighter political controls than you would find in a Western liberal democracy. But the debate matters. Efficiency without accountability has limits. Systems built by strong central control can become rigid, unresponsive, or even unjust when the people running them are not challenged enough. Singapore's leaders have historically been talented and relatively honest, but what happens when they are not? That is the unanswered question hanging over the efficiency miracle. The country has built extraordinary systems. The test ahead is whether those systems can survive imperfection, both in their leaders and in a rapidly changing world. So, is Singapore the world's most efficient country? Honestly, it is hard to argue against it. Look at what this tiny island has done. No resources, no strategic depth, no natural advantages. And yet it built one of the safest, cleanest, healthiest, best educated, and best connected societies on the planet in 60 years. That is extraordinary. But efficiency is only part of the story. Singapore is also a reminder that how a society is built matters just as much as what it built. The freedoms people enjoy, the voices they are allowed to raise, the choices they are given. These things matter too. Singapore challenges us to ask a hard question. What do we actually want from a society? Safety and order? Or freedom and messiness? Can we have both? Maybe the real lesson from Singapore is not that we should copy its model exactly. Maybe the lesson is that discipline, long-term thinking, and a genuine commitment to making things work can transform almost any situation, if the will is there. That is a lesson every country in the world could use right now. If you found this video interesting, please give it a like, because it genuinely helps more people find this content. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Is Singapore's model something your country should learn from? Or does the trade-off go too far? And if you want more videos that go deep on the stories behind the world's most fascinating places and systems, hit that subscribe button right now. There is so much more to explore, and we are just getting started.